Thanks, to you all, online, to anyone online, and to the audience. We have we're full today. Our audience is full. Audience of one. Thanks for being here. We will start with opening prayer. George, would you like to do something?
Certainly. Okay, I'll go ahead and say a prayer for us. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for this day, allowing us to be here together as a group to work on situations and come to mutual understandings on the things that we're doing. Be in all of our hearts. May they be filled with the joy of your love. Protect us throughout the day. Guide us. Let us have a good meeting today and all walk away with good feelings towards each other. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Nah.
Meeting minutes, as always, are on the Flathead Reservation Water Management Board.gov. Attendance, please.
Clayton Matt,
Here.
Roger Miller,
Here.
Shane Henderson,
Here.
George Sneeze,
Here.
Ken Pitt,
Here.
George McLeod.
Here.
Everyone is in attendance.
Super. Any potential conflicts of interest on this agenda for anyone today, George?
No.
Ken?
No.
Yeah.
No.
No, Roger, no. Jane? Yeah, would be a none for me. Thank you. Meeting minutes of 11/13/24. Who goes?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the November 13th meeting minutes.
I did that.
Second.
Second by Kenny, my favorite side.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any none, please. Thank you. Maybe anything to follow up on with the IRS letter, with that, we'll cover that today. Says here we're gonna do a letter, I guess we do a letter.
Sure.
Board action to apply for a letter of determination of tax exempt status from IRS.
It's in progress.
Okay, thank you. All right, going to today's agenda. Comments, questions, changes. Executive session, we have been moving that. Are we going to move that today? You guys want to, would we be able to move today? In which space again?
I'm sure we'd be fine.
Okay.
I'll double check when we take a break.
Sorry. Motion to approve if you're ready.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as provided.
Well,
By
seconded.
Roger, second by George, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There is none. Okay. Thank you. Public comment for items not on the agenda, so. Any comments from our massive public audience over there?
No.
Let's see, no, anybody online?
If anyone online would like to make a comment, please raise your hand and we'll have you speak.
Do we have some online?
We have two online. State and try to staff. And seeing no public comment.
Okay, we'll have an opportunity for public comment again later, so. Moving on, item number 3, WP&P testing, monitoring, enforcement, illegal uses clarifications. So who has this one?
Mr. Chairman, board members, I'll just address you from here if that's all right today.
Ethan, thank you, Ethan.
As you may recall, we went through and we handled some details in the WP&P that needed updates in order for us to move a few applications that were hung up because of the time in which their wells were drilled. We also sought to get some clarification about, our office being charged to resolve all possible illegal uses on a property before issuing any new water rights. We went through and we set up some language that allows somebody who needed to do some testing and monitoring to have a clear and concise understanding of what's required. And it's really just a notice that's required for our office, but we do not consider that testing and monitoring to be a beneficial use that requires a permit. We offered some additional language about did I get it all, James? What else have we missed again? We had, we did offer some, excuse me, additional enforcement powers of the engineer. And that's getting at some small fining options that would be available if somebody drilled their well without getting preliminary approval, which we try to thread a needle there and make it so that folks who are following the rules would still reap the benefits of having followed the rules, but that we could bring somebody into compliance without making some kind of a big hearings in front of the board. That said, we also did a few modifications regarding what will happen if somebody has an overage on a mandatory water measurement requirement for their water use. As a reminder, we have very few types of applications that require a mandatory water measurement, but one of them we did just get out and free into the public, the development domestic allowance. I had urged the board, and you seem to agree, that we should have a certain amount of clarity on what would happen if an applicant was to go over that 10 acre-foot amount, because if they came in, they proposed to have a water use plan that may be, went outside of our normal standards. We wanted to give them some certainty on what would be expected. And so we do have a fining kind of paradigm set up, and the ability to increase the frequency of mandatory reporting of water measurements. In other words, if you get to the end of your big 1 year amount of time and you're over, and it seems substantial to our office, we have now, through this, if the board was to take action on this WP&Ps, we have the ability to add a finer resolution of reporting requirements, say monthly, and that we can have that applicant say, how much water are you going to use per month? That way we can have somebody coming in more frequently to our office, so that we run less of a risk of having a larger overage at the end of the year. I hope I did that justice. I'm trying to explain it, board members. And I do believe that that's the gist of this particular update that you have in front of you. So some additional enforcement clarifications, some finding options out of the office of the water engineer, some clarifications about monitoring and testing. I think that's really the big highlights there. I'll stand for questions if you have.
Any questions at this time? It's been a while since we've looked at this. If you're ready to approve this today, we can do that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, board members, I did fail to mention that this had gone through a 15-day public comment period and that there were no comments received. And that is an important part of that. I know it says that on the summary, but didn't want to neglect that we had gone through the paces on the public comment formal 15-day period. Thank you.
Any additional thoughts from your part?
No.
Approve it.
Yeah, I'm good. It's done, I guess, yeah.
Okay, so ready for final public comments. Any comments? Public comments? Is there anybody online?
Anyone online would like to make a public comment, raise your hand, and we'll allow you to do so. See, no public comment online.
Yeah. Amendments and changes to the water policies and procedures have gone to public comment and no additional public comment today. So if the board is ready to approve, we'll take a motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the WP&P testing, monitoring, enforcement, illegal use clarifications.
Motion by George,
I'll second.
second by Georgia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None opposed. Right, and you have additional policy and procedures. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Budget update. Budget update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just gonna do a brief introduction of Tina Begay, Red Tail County, our contract accountant. It's because of her knowledge and expertise that we're actually sitting here with something to show you guys. And so I just wanted to let you know she's really instrumental to get us to this point. And so in front of you guys, you have a finance folder and Tina's gonna take it from there and walk you guys through it.
Awesome.
Hi, Tina, thank you. Does everyone know Tina? We'll meet Tina
I think I do.
one time or another.
You on the phone, I'm excited
Yeah,
to see you
I'm
in
excited to
person.
see everyone in person. This has been a fun puzzle to put together and I've been enjoying it, so I'm excited to be involved in this whole mission and initiative. Let's just start by kind of just going through, I'm a real black and white person, obviously, for accounting. And so I don't do a lot of colors and I tried my best to do, but I can put it into colors in a different format if you'd like, but I'd like to just share with you my philosophy first. And so at Red Tail Accounting, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've dedicated my whole career basically to serving nonprofit organizations and government institutions, mainly in Indian country. Most of I'd say 98% of my clients are Native American clients. I started this back in 2010 when virtual accounting wasn't a thing. And I did it out of pure necessity for our tribal people to be able to have good accounting records, even at a small scale. And so I went after that target market, and then as the years went along, I've always done that as a side business. And then in 2019, I decided to do it full time. And then the world shut down. And for my business, honestly, it's been a blessing because prior to that, people were not did not accept having a virtual bookkeeper. And now they do, and now I'm sought after actually, and so, and after all of those years of doing this, I've kind of designed kind of like a standard operating procedure that we do for our company. And I wanted to create something that was scalable and so that I could serve lots of people like yourselves that are in this kind of situation, or smaller nonprofits, or people who are serving a unique constituent pool. And so we do have different, laws when we're working with tribes versus state. And so, being, I guess, studied on that is an important part of what we do at Red Tail. But the foundation of it all just comes down to basic accounting and organization. And so I did create in your packet kind of my standard operating procedures, and I'm not gonna go through all these because they're just, I actually wrote this for my staff and not for the outside people, but outside people keep asking me for it, so I thought that I would just share it with you. So how I set up your accounts is I used a unified chart of accounts that is used by most nonprofits or government institutions. And I kind of mixed the two when I was creating your chart of accounts, because you have a mix of both. And so you'll see a lot of standard numbers, but also you'll see some things that might be unique to your particular organization. And so all of this is like everything from what accounting software program we use and then how we store things, but the main thing I wanted to get you out of this is using our chart of accounts. And that, I was gonna print that out and give it to every one of you, but it's like 80 pages each of these. So I didn't feel that that was a sufficient amount of time or energy and paper. And so I just wrote links here so you can see those and see my method to why I put them in these certain categories. And so the next thing that I did is I took what I received, basically different chunks of funding and budgets. And so I based your accounting off of those budgets and like funding periods. And then, so if you want to, we'll just start with August 31st ending 2022. You'll see that in your first packet here. And just kind of the structure of it, if you see the structure of it on the revenue side up at the top, this is following accounting order. Remember, in accounting, there's order. So you always have your revenue first and then your expenditures. If you're in a for-profit, obviously, have your cost of goods sold before that, but we're not in that kind of a business. So we're in just a revenue and expenditure kind of business. And then at the end, you have your net income. In this particular period from ending August 31st, 2022, I could not find a budget what was initially kind of drawn together to account for this $100,000. And so I didn't put a budget in there because I didn't find one. And so then on the actual column is going to be what actually happened during that period. And so if you go down the line in accounting order, we always put wages first, then contract for services, general administrative expenses, facilities and equipment, travel, and then other. And that's how you'll see them in order. You'll notice that when you first started, as of August, you had a Butterfield, a lady, and I don't know the staff or anything, I just know last name. So there was a Butterfield lady that received some salary and fringe. You had a little bit of accounting, you had some professional fees. You might have had 1 or 2 board meetings. It was $875. You had some supplies, telephone, postage, subscriptions, a little bit of rent, some equipment was purchased, a little bit of staff travel, insurance, and some bank fees. So at the end of that, you had spent $40,945. And you had come in $119,000. Leaving you with $78,804 carryover for that period.
Tina, so I've been working with Tina and Ron on this too, so just to add a little more. So what Tina did on this too, is she went back to all of our check stubs and all of our accounts with Glacier Bank. And she also went back and looked at all the funding agreements between the CSKT and the state of Montana. And you'll see, for instance, under wages and expenses that the water engineer was vacant. Well, that's the case, but also when I think we initially didn't, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ethan, but Ethan came on in October of 2022, but yet I think we had some hourly agreement with you for a while through that early startup phase, but there was nothing in Shalleck and Davis hadn't recorded any of that, so that's why you'll see they didn't record anything until after this August 31st, 2022. So that's why that's vacant. It's not a mistake. It's just that there was nothing there to record.
And you'll see, so if you go to the next period, it's from September 1 to June 30th. That was what the budget has said, the period dates. And this one I don't know the salary and fringe breakout, it was just an amount. And so these are on their own. And so if you look at the bottom, the 78,000 is carried over to the top. When what I think happened is if you look at the budget on the next page, it'll say 52,000 or 562,230. And then there's a little carryover thing at the bottom and it says 62 something. And it actually is not 62, it actually was 78. And so that kind of made the difference, the difference there. I'm guessing when they made the budget, they were guessing on what the carryover was, what it was. And so I just put in the budget for the 562,000. And then put that carryover in the actuals on the next column. But it still has not been budgeted for or anything, it's just carryover. And so it still kind of just keeps carrying over each period and not being budgeted for. So now from September 1st to June 30th, after you, and what I kind of see here is I saw where Mace was paid both salary and hourly situations, but I put those together all into one category under Mace, anything that he was paid. I feel like for that period, it might have been a little bit higher than it should have been, only because I'm thinking that maybe there was something that should have been dated that prior period that didn't get dated till when the accountant started doing the book September 1st. But either way, that's what was paid to them. And then so forth by each employee. Then you have fringe. If I'm looking at this as a board member, I look at kind of high numbers. So what happened is you're budgeting 35% for fringe when it's kind of coming out to be about 24%. I think we figured 23 something. So it's a high fringe rate. But I don't know if there's some other things calculated into that I'm not aware of that are, other perks to being in position, so. That's something you wanna look at. Then you have your accounting, you know, all your contracted services. Your general administrative, what you'll see there is you had $10,000 budgeted, but you don't have things budgeted for, so like your telecommunications, your postage. And subscriptions. Subscriptions nowadays are, you know how we used to buy software? And now you don't buy software, you buy subscriptions to be able to use people's software, and so. We used to just put those in a supplies line item altogether called supplies/software. But I personally feel like that's two really separate things. You wanna know how much you're spending on like supplies. And you wanna know how much you're spending on software programs, because those can get very spendy, so. Your, you know, QuickBooks is expensive, whatever kind of other subscription tool that you guys have, so. I thought that would be an important line item, and you're starting to see expenses in it, so it should probably see give itself a budget. Then we'll go down to rent and utilities, you know, that looked pretty on. Except for what I did is, in the equipment, so your equipment, I put everything in the line item called equipment. But the items that are over 500,000 or $5,000 have to be put in the fixed asset category and capitalized. I didn't do that for this exercise, I put it in the expense line item, so you could see where, you could see it on the paper, because that's found on the balance sheet, and sometimes that confuses people. So I put it under the expenditure line item, but you will see that if it's over $5,000. So there was a flow flow tracker that you'll see on there, and then the vehicle. But everything else is that's probably a true expense there, because that's like your desks, you know, everything else that you purchased, your computers, equipment, things like that. You asked me to separate staff travel from board travel, and in that particular budget, it didn't have a budget for travel. And so in the end of this, as of June 30th, you had a carryover of $156,000. Any questions on that?
I think we'll get to it, but just what's still rattling in my head is we keep talking about this in terms of budget and actual in terms of the budget. All we really ever had was whatever money came across from the state of the tribe. What I think we also hope we're going to get to is the creation of that the board actually creates an annual budget.
Yeah.
We've gone through years of expenses. We're probably going to go through a little more until we get fully staffed. And we'll see that everything's staffed, we have our equipment. And we're going to know what our annual need is, and we can set an actual budget.
Yeah.
Is what we're hoping for. I see what this is, but that's what I think we're also long-term hoping.
Yeah. And these are, because they were done on what it looks like 6 months, like they're doing like a budget every 6 months, it seems like, but then we weren't kind of firm on what your fiscal year was gonna be. So
I changed once, yeah.
And-
Twice.
And so the budgets are all done in all different time frames, so that's kind of how it was hard for me I wanted to be able to just put these in QuickBooks and run the report out, but you can't do that because QuickBooks is gonna go by your fiscal year. And so then I had to take them, extract them all into Excel, redo them by chunks to match what was presented as budgets, but then I'm getting to the other pages will be to where we're gonna do but I kind of want to show you like,
Yeah, that's good.
like my,
Yeah, this is great, and keep in mind that when you look at the header, you look up above, like the one we were just on was from September 1 to June 30th, so that was only 9 months. But that's what the funding agencies gave us. So what we have here is really a reconciliation for that funding period, which is exactly what we want. Yeah. To see what we spent.
So then at the end of June 30th, you had 156,000 carryover. So then we get into the $1.3 million budget. And, if you just kind of look at the bottom line of that first row, has the 14,839. Just to let you, just so people know, that's just the state in kind. And so those aren't hard dollars, but we wanted to show that that was matched up at the top. And so that's what you're seeing at the bottom there. Now, on the actual side, when we look at what actually came in, you have those two funding sources, the tribe and the state. Then you have water application fees, investment interest, and then that $156,000 carryover. Well, the budget that was submitted was for 1.3 million. And it had 708,000 for salary and fringe, 224,000 for contract services, general administrative 62,000, facilities and equipment 285,000, board and travel 31,501. Then if you go to the actuals, so again, you're seeing the fringe is, at a high percentage, and so you have a lot of left in fringe. You'll see Mace is over on his budgeted, but that was because there was some, am I allowed to talk about this in a public meeting? I don't, where am I supposed to say names? Are we allowed to? I didn't know, that's like personal information. People be hunting you down if they know how much money you make.
That's you're asking a good question, and I apologize for not picking that when we first started, so we probably need to.
I mean, I don't think you should put their salary information online, that they could be targeted, but I don't know if that's a rule or how you guys do that, but.
As far along as we are, is it appropriate to do that in executive session?
As far as salary, I mean, public officials and employees, do have their salaries posted online. So I could go online and find out any of the government's salaries currently. Sometimes they don't have names linked to those salaries, though, they'll just have the position. So if we're gonna be talking about maybe specific people's positions and where,
Positions.
yeah, I would prefer to refer to positions.
Okay. And this particular period too, not only with just sort of like, not just, the one staff, but several staff, there was, like overtime, comp time, in addition to holiday pay. I've seen some of that going on, so, you'll notice it's still under, except it is the one exception. But, I just don't know. It wasn't a black and white to say, oh, this person makes this much an hour and it's 2080. There was some other things in there that I seen where they got paid extra for something that I don't know. Then you have accounting, your contract for services, you have accounting fees, you have legal fees. One line item that you didn't allow for in your budget was other professional fees, and this is one thing that when we're following the uniform chart of accounts, there actually should only be 4 contract for service accounts. Should be your accounting, legal, other, and board pay. And then if you're not in those 3, everything else goes in other. Otherwise, you're gonna be creating a line item for every time you hire any, like, somebody. But I did receive, computer IT by itself, because it is a large expense of your, organization, so that is by itself, but everything else is lumped together, so like your cleaning, security, things like that, snow removal will probably be in there. And so you'll need to budget for that. I didn't see that in the budget line item.
And all of that's going under other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, like temporary, if you have emergency hire, someone that you wanna contract for, just a little, you put everything in that professional.
For budgeting purposes, for this, we would do that, but we should be able to track those individual expenses if we need.
Yeah, so what I do is I could, like when we're having a meeting like this, and you could say, what is that? Professional services, and I can drill down on it and show you the details of it.
If you would, is there always like a chance to break that out if we needed to do some more detailed cost allocations?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
I can make a subcategory of any of these, because I do have special companies or organizations that need to know like a certain subset.
Sure, and then you need to get that kind of on that front end though, right? Otherwise once they're combined, they're harder
Yeah, I just.
Harder
have
to
go-
separate
yeah,
afterwards,
I
right?
just have to go back and do some separating, but
Mm-hmm.
if you want something separated, you just need to let us know, and then we can create the line item, and then from there on, we would. But the thing with that is you don't want your P&L to be 5 pages long, like I see some people get them, so they're so long, and they create a line item for everything, because they want to know what it's about. And I would kind of like to learn, get the feel of you guys a little bit more, because QuickBooks, see in my SOPs, QuickBooks has a feature where you can track classes. And so I almost kind of want to use that for just your board, and instead of creating separate line items, you just have travel, and then you can class them by what's staff and what's board, and then do the breakout by that. But there's lots of features that we can add to this. Any other comments so far?
Well, to give like for instance, we have we have computer IT and we have web services from the same first call service, but their accounting is totally separate. So at certain points, we would need to be able to tease out what money went to the web folks and what money went to the IT folks,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be an example of, and the reason would be to track the expenditures and make sure that they're accurate and reflect the agreed to billing, right?
Correct, we could do it that way too, if you want to do a line item, but you could also do a run report by vendor and see how much you're paying them.
So in this case, though, the vendor looks like it's the same vendor, but they have different tiers within their umbrella vendor of first call.
I
right?
see you.
So, and I'm just bringing it up because it's confusing a little bit, and it was easier when we had IT from a different vendor. But
Oh, I see what
we
you
don't
mean,
have
yeah.
that now, so, but we do need to somehow in the accounting, keep those in separate bundles so that we can check the billing against for the web portion and billing against the IT portion.
Are they separate contracts?
They are separate contracts.
That would
Entirely,
create the
yeah,
opportunity to do separate vendors.
and
Right now, they're in there as a description of what they are, so we can sort them out pretty easily.
That'll be like, so that would be a sub item. We just don't wanna, you'll have to like really arm wrestle me to get a line item. So I mean, I wanna like debate you about it, and then after we debate about it, and if you win, I'll add it.
I was just offering up to the table right now about web services and IT services, because they're separate contracts.
We've already had some discussions and. Tina
Yeah,
said
no,
first one.
we've already had fights, so, yeah.
Understood, but if the board or administration wants
Yeah,
details about the expenditures for a particular contract, you can do that.
Yes.
That's the main thing.
I just do that because it's my experience, cause I'll get people wanting to add a line item for every little thing, and you're like, you can extract just that if that's what you're wanting, because. But I am open to it.
In the background of this, for the contracts, do you track contract periods?
I don't, I just track whether they have, my focus totally is taxes, so I'm focused on whether they have their W-9, if they're paying over $600 and they're getting 1099. I'm not on the contract side of it, like. I don't know,
We are uploading the contract in QBO, and I don't think that at this point we are really confident.
somebody probably should, could you, I mean, like, just use mine, for example.
Yeah.
Right? So mine, it ends December, and
Yes.
so somebody needs to know, and whoever else you work with, all your other
Right,
contracts.
no, that's exactly, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
So is that something-
We can develop something, yeah.
Probably a good idea to have a file somewhere of all our contracts and.
We're just starting into that part of the reconciliation, is going through that and getting into QBO, and so while we're doing that, we should maybe get a spreadsheet going for that information.
Yeah, you should have your like legal, your cleaning people.
Yeah, all.
Yeah, all of them, and then check them. Like my contract with you guys, it was a very specific time, but sometimes you like have contractors that just say it's an open ended. And then, you know, if it changes, then you'll, make a change, but. You know, it depends on what your contract is. Okay. So now, what did I get to? Let's see.
At the end of June 30,
So at the end of June 30, you're at over 888,000. So then I was perplexed, or kind of didn't know what to do, because that was as of July, that's June 30th, 2024. So now we got this weird 3-month deal going on from July to September to make up for. Get us back on a year from a 10-1 to a 9/30. So there was this weird 3 months. So what I did, and I didn't know what else to do, was I just did the actuals for that 3 months. Then I did a budget based off of those actuals, and I just did those off of what my mind said. I didn't have no like, you know, board direction or anything. I just did it based off what the numbers said. And so then at the end of this period from 6/30, you had 651,000 carryover. So then that brings us to the current.
let's get real clear on what
Yeah.
you're saying about what was confusing that July 1 to September 30.
Well, okay, yeah, what was confusing for me about that was there was no budget, but I still needed to present a year of information, but I didn't want to present it from July 1 to September 30th, 2025. That would have been 15 months rather than 12. So I was trying to get that quarter.
And I think the intent there was to bring us back to a federal fiscal year that runs from October 1 through September 30th.
I think that was the change, right?
Yeah.
That was the reason, yeah. That would have been the reason, because I thought that thing was changed, went back to the federal fiscal year.
And so theoretically, you could, for that period, just not have a budget. I just put that budget in there to match the numbers. But theoretically, you could just not have a budget, and then the carryovers is still the same.
So you have the total going in, you have the expenditures and the total going out.
Yeah,
And then so will you do a note somewhere in the file that
yeah,
gives a narrative about what you're dealing with here?
yeah, because I didn't know, I wasn't sure what you guys wanted to do.
Well, there's another thing right in the back of my head is because either you or someone at some point will talk about doing an audit. And we haven't done that yet, so it'd be good to have these things as clear as we can as we move through this, so that someone gets to that and see what happened. Some notes would help.
Oh, absolutely,
You
yes,
can see it on that.
yeah.
Well, and the other thing with this one through September 30th, 2024. That gives us the numbers then to give to the funding agencies, because that's our funding period. So that
Yeah.
when they wanna know where we're at. Then this is what we need, we'll be giving them. So that they can then, we can move forward with the next year funding.
So yeah, because they're waiting for some.
And this one will take us through that fiscal year.
We say. For that, in one period, no budget, however, there was carryover, didn't we? At least plug a total in and for the carryover.
Yeah, I did, so the carryover was 888,000. If you see it, that's at the top, I should carry that over. And so at the end of September
Okay.
30th. You'll have 651,000 in that. So then.
Yeah.
That brings us to the last page. And. Again. We are already October, November into this current fiscal year, and we have not balanced October and November yet. We are very close. But I was working my tail off to get this to you guys today.
Okay.
And so, but that doesn't really even matter, this should have been already done like 6 months ago. So you wouldn't even know what's going on right now, so we kind of have to put our minds back. That way, but. What I did is I took this budget and I just plugged in. Kind of like. I wasn't sure, cause Roger, you asked me to run a report from 10/1/2023 to 9/30/2024 actuals. But even though, that wasn't in, and I did run that, and I have that on my end, and that. But it kind of made no relevance to the projections, because. You're not fully staffed, you're just starting, all these different variables, so. If you go to the last budget versus actual, and we look at. What's coming in from the tribe and what's came from the state, the carryover. And then the expenses I put as just, kind of that very other budget that I gave you before, and then I went by more what actuals, like more of a 24% on friends rather than 35.
To set the budget,
Mhm.
and the two from the state and the tribe, and those are the ones we don't actually have yet, right? We're just assuming that at this point in these numbers.
That's based off of the email that Roger supplied from Payla.
Right,
Yeah.
right, we don't have, we'll get the numbers when we provide the financial reports.
Right,
So we'll get to them, so we'll just looking, so for the board to understand, those two numbers are going to be true as soon as we.
So you're talking about the
The 500,
2024.
So for instance, on that's that $570,500. That's what's in the governor's budget or the DNRC budget that exists for us.
Right.
So we haven't got it yet, but that's what's budgeted.
yeah, and in the state map, in the
Yeah.
tribe you mentioned,
Right.
that's where that comes from, so that's where that's coming from, so. Do we have, I don't want to jump too far ahead, do we have enough then to be able to provide the requisite financial reporting to the state so that we can get this funding released?
I did want to know if you want me to put it in budget format. Is that the one you wanted to be in NC budget? Because I can put these in those
Well, if it's financial reporting that they require, I guess have we ever heard from them as to what they want?
I don't know, I mean, yeah.
Maybe-
We just have, I guess I'd have to go back and look, reread that financial funding agreement.
Was Kayla in line?
No,
What's her name?
Blair.
Cause some of them have like a form and they say here.
Well, that was it. I was wondering if maybe, we want to give them what they want, but if we don't know, we just be making it up, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so maybe it's time to sit down with Kayla and Alyssa and whoever else.
Yeah,
The other day.
yeah, figure out what exactly they need. Tell them we've got numbers now, what do they need? So we can get that done so we get our money.
But I think the one through September 30th is that's really gonna answer their questions. Where are we at?
That might be, yeah. So on your contract for services, you said we should have another. I still don't see another. Do you want to add another or?
Oh, no, it's the others professional services.
Oh, okay.
And what I did off this is I just did like, the staff, what they get paid annually. With,
Yeah.
some projections, and I felt like I shouldn't be doing that.
Well, it's a good start. I think we need to. we need to
Again,
wait.
I'm like, you guys
We need to
hammer
wait.
that out, I
Yeah.
can tell you what it actually was.
Yeah.
And then I just did your contract for services, you'll notice like some of them, even though like there's no line item, you might still have postage down the line, I don't know. If you'll have that line item eventually. But,
I think this would be far enough along for our Ethan and staff and to sit down and actually take these categories and populate a budget based on our vast years of experience now.
Well, and, Mr. Chairman, board members, this document is largely what the state wanted. So, I mean, I am familiar with that. What they're gonna wanna see, which gets at what you were talking about, Mr. Chairman, is they're gonna wanna see that carryover amount, spoken for, okay? And, so not just out there hanging, but, they're gonna wanna hear some kind of intention.
Yeah,
About that, so.
I think that's valid. I guess I have. I've been seeing this before. I don't know how big of a concern they have with that, depending on what our carryover is. Are they gonna have expectations that we spend down to zero? I mean, to me, given the kind of expenses, the potential expenses we have and some unknowns yet, 566,000 is not a huge carryover. So I would hope that, they would get to the point where even as we populate this budget, if we have carryover, that, there's at least some allowance for carryover. I don't think we can put ourselves in a position where we're zeroing out our budget every year.
I totally agree with you, Clayton. I think that number can be easily substantiated, especially there's still a lot of vacant positions. We're still in ramp up,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and, we've, Haley and Ethan, I think the previous meeting, they had 3 other classifications for paid time off and 2 other things that I don't recall what they were, but we add those into the budget, then I think we'll have a justifiable budget.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chairman, it was a litigation fund and a liability fund.
Yeah.
As well, and I also don't think that there's any harm in designating a certain amount as a buffer between, us and the rest of the world, because we don't have other coffers from which we could draw in the event of unexpected billing or expenses.
No, I think it's all good. I think the great thing is now we have some real numbers that we know where we're at. And we can move forward.
Yeah, and so we need to get the budget, get the financial numbers in, figure out what that is, get our budget dollars in. And really hone in on the budget a little more.
Yeah, you know, to the idea of the carryover, I agree with everything. We need some kind of buffer just for those unknown. But at the same time, I think we should set that so we can budget
Yeah.
for it and, you know, and it, you know, whether it's 20% or 30% of the budget. But at least we account for that. You can argue that the number we're carrying over is not a big number, but it's 30-40% of our budget.
Yeah.
So is that what we want?
Right.
And that's, I think, what we need to do is just.
30-40% as this is right now.
As it
That's where
is.
we need to
Yep,
re-articulate this budget a
Exactly.
little bit so that we have a more firm
so that's just part of the budget building
position that
process,
we're taking, yeah.
that
Yeah.
our carryover is almost a line item or the safety valve, you know, that if you look at Mission Valley Power irrigation project, they all have an emergency fund. And that's some percentage of their total budget.
Well, if I'm doing the numbers right, close to 65% of the carryover is unfilled positions. Which I assume the state, like anybody else, is having difficulty filling some of these positions, right? So I think if they see a report like this, it's not going to be a surprise. But it is sometimes difficult to fill some positions like a hydrogeologist in this part of Montana. They're not an abundance of them running around, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
On the September, the previous one, the July through September, I believe that's when we purchased the vehicle, is that right? And that, if I remember, that wasn't out of the general fund, if you will. That there was a initial seed money, startup money that was budgeted from. I don't know if that needs to be reflected in like a other revenue or a one-time startup
I
revenue.
would like to point out where that I put that.
Okay.
I debated on that too, because it was kind of just by itself, and I almost made a column just for it. And then it just threw my OCD off. Could not handle it, because I wanted them all to have the 3 columns, so when you're reading it. So, if you look on the one that's from ending June 30th, 2024. And if you go to line item equipment, and you'll see $185,000. Was that line item, that was that extra 185,000 that was added to this $1.3 million budget. It was part of that $1.3 million budget. You see it?
So that's under expenses, right?
Yeah, well, the budget, I'll say budget,
Yeah.
185,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but we actually didn't spend that until, well, we spent some of it, not we, but you guys spent some of it, 17,000. And then the next, must have been between July and September, we bought the truck, and that was 54,000.
Okay.
So that's where that came out of.
So that makes sense to me, but I was wondering if we need to show that as a revenue. As a one-time revenue.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So when the reporting powers ask us, what did you do with our one-time startup cost?
That would have come in, which funding? The very first one or?
That
the last
came
one?
in,
The last one.
So just a question, if we need to show that. in-
No, good point.
It makes sense
No,
to
I-
show how
yeah.
you expensed it out,
yeah,
but that has to be on the plus side at some point.
and I did put it in on the plus side, as far as it's has been put in the budget and budgeted for, and then there's been things taken out of that.
Yeah,
Maybe I could show you, take that line,
Well, I
item, so
think-
there's gotta be things still left in there.
If you look at the July 2023 through the June 30th, 2024, you'll see there's up on the top, there's tribal 683 and there's state 648, and then there's that that in-kind match. Isn't that part of the 185? Isn't that?
No.
That in-kind was for Schubert's salary while she was still working for
No,
DRC.
yeah, I know that, but I mean,
Oh,
wouldn't it
sorry.
normally be 570 versus is what I'm saying?
No, look at your budget right behind it. So it has, so if you see that one-time cost of 185 is included in that 1.3.
Right,
So then if you look at that budget line item, it would be 1.3, but you take out that 185, I just put it in one. Cause I didn't know too, because it says vehicles, computerized equipment, startup costs, like what is all of that? But I just left it in the equipment line item, cause that's what it looks like you guys are pretty much buying out of that. So that's 185,000.
I think this underscores though what Clayton referenced earlier, when we do an audit, this is the kind of thing the auditor, I assume, would want to know. You know, what is the best mechanism to kind of track that? So if it's confusing for us and we were involved, it might be tough for the auditor to come in and figure it out. So just what would the mechanism?
Well,
be for that?
if I recall, we had the 185 at the initial
Yeah,
inception. of the-
what Roger's saying is right.
yeah,
Roger is, he's totally correct that that initial budget amount that's on the page, July 1, 23 to June 30th, 24, that budgeted amount includes this 185, and if you were to, you know, remove the 185, that's, you get over to this
yeah, basically,
570 number on the last page.
So it's in there.
it's in there, yeah.
Okay. We just need to know that.
Well, I just,
Note in there, so
I just,
Oh, good idea.
I just
Okay.
ran
Good
the,
idea to at least get that noted so that as it's tracked by someone later on,
Yeah.
or even we go back and look at it, say, what the heck did you do?
Yeah, cause I struggled with it myself. I wanted to create a whole column just for it, but then it just made it was just one line. I was like, I couldn't do it.
No, footnote would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, or we couldn't do like another line up in there, it's one more line. It says 185.
Or call it prior year carryover, because
Okay, I'll add a footnote for that.
technically that's what it was.
Maybe that's where we get that color.
They will want to know specifically
You might.
about the 185. I am, I'm in concurrence, it does need to be called out.
Spreadsheets, they're all colorful. Okay, the last thing, are we done with that now?
For now.
So the last thing that you'll see is your balance sheet, as of September 30th, so in your bank. Placer, you had 625,000, and then in 2526, you have 33,000. You'll see a payroll correction and other asset, those are prior to me, so I gotta dig into those. I kind of didn't, anything under $1,000 around that, I just like, I'm gonna deal with it later. But the other asset was a rent, a prepaid rent, know that one. Then if you go down the line, you have your credit cards, so you have 2 credit cards, that's the balance as of 9/30. Then you're gonna see a whole list of these payroll liabilities. They're like a whole bunch of them. And they're all like messed up. But in the end, we owed some federal taxes. We owed people's federal withholding. We also owed Social Security and Medicare. And we have a big liability here of 52,000, that's what that was, and so we had to get that paid. And I wanted to get it paid and taken care of, so now our liabilities are only 3,300 rather than that 52 something, because that's what was, I honestly don't know how that did not get paid or why the other bookkeeper didn't pay it, but it wasn't paid. And that was that. However much.
So just to explain a little bit, the third quarter reconciliation by Davis and Shelley they didn't do all the withholdings. And so then the IRS sent us a reminder. And so,
Nicely worded.
and so that's what we had to pay to take care of that.
Yeah, and there's gonna be it happened so fast and I'm trying to get it in here, there's gonna be, cause we got some fines. Some of this is gonna be out of here and on your P and L as fines, but it's right now, it's on the liability side right at the moment, but I'm gonna move it. After I get, these all gotta go in their right pocket, so what was happening is the other bookkeepers just putting them all in one bucket called payroll liabilities and not separating them out. And it's easy to do, so I separated out the salaries, that was easy to do. You have to go for liabilities, it's every. And then there's another issue between when we switched from QBDT to QBO. The name, I had to make it exactly the same name as it was in QBDT. And so therefore, sometimes I'm having double names. And so it's really confusing and I have to like spend like a little bit more tedious time, but I want you to know that that is there, it's the right amount, they're just not in the right pockets right now. But that's your balance sheet and then your.
Before we move off the IRS issue, my understanding, and maybe you already have got this figured in, but I wanted to make sure, it was that the real issue of not paying was that they sent in a payment, but they had coded it for the wrong quarter.
This is a separate issue that
That's
just
a
came up.
separate issue.
Yeah, we
Okay,
had less
so-
than 10 days to deal with this, and so we're still digging into it, but it's paid right now, it's on the 941, it's gonna need to be reconciled a little further. But we're hoping also.
That was the issue though.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
am aware
I
of
just
that.
wanted to like not leave money on the table at the IRS.
Oh, no, trust me,
Okay.
Oh, they won't let us.
I do not want to pay the I'm one of those people that my taxes are zero. If I got a refund $132 and I'm really mad about it.
Hmm.
So,
The other one that we have been previously talking about in the board meeting was also on the 941. It was a misapplied payment.
Okay,
We did get notification that they were going to send us a check, and then later on, we got a notification that they were gonna apply it for us. We haven't seen any evidence that they have, so the IRS in general is gonna be a very time consuming thing that is gonna have to be reconciled, and we know that that's not gonna be an easy process, so we wanted to work on concentrating the budget right now. But we will have some answers for you hopefully soon. I'm not sure how soon, but we're working on that.
yeah, my philosophy with the IRS is when they send you a notice, just pay it. Whatever it is, just pay it, and then in the end, you're gonna fight them about, and I feel like I could get the fees. The fees, abated. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a CPA, but I do lots of letters for people to get things abated, and they do get them abated, cause you can claim that, hey, you're just now starting out, you're please erase these, you can apply to get those erased, and my experience has been they do erase them. And so I think what happened between that double payment on that one quarter and then not paying for the other quarters and the IRS is behind. Like I literally got a letter from another client that I sent back in December 18th of 2023 that they just now responded to. That's how far behind they are. So, and I think it's getting. And so we need to let it catch up with itself, but I always just caught error on just pay it, because I could see on your liabilities that you owed it, I could tell, and it's reconciled, so I knew you owed it, so I felt confident. Pay it, and then the end, we'll be able to abate some of the charges, and then we'll be able to figure out what that credit was, and if it was applied or not. But you don't wanna mess with the IRS and people's taxes and, Social Security and Medicare, you do not. And so we gotta make sure that that's. And while we're talking about it, the IRS QuickBooks is making a change starting 2025. So they used to take your payroll liabilities and pay them the 15th of the next month. Now, because you guys are in the situation where you owe this, now they're making you be a weekly depositor. And so you'll start to see that, which is
Just like
better
the
for you.
WP&P.
Which is better for you anyway, because it comes directly out of your account, better to, budget and, you know, what your true numbers are, more quickly. The last thing I have is your bank accounts. So when was this, as of December 9th? Yeah. So as of December 9th, you have in your free checking 2526 is $145,254.23. In your money market, you have $325,975.20.
Those are for 2 months that haven't been reconciled yet, so that's why you'll see a difference with the balance sheet and the checking and savings.
Now we'll go up when we get our money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the more, I guess. In a business sense, the more, you know, it's sitting in their pocket and earning interest and you want to put it in their pocket.
Any further questions? Thank you.
No.
This is getting us.
Yeah, I just say kudos to Rhonda and Tina. This is great information. It's gotten us to where we need to be
this
now,
is-
and so
this
we can
is-
move ahead.
I had fun doing it.
This is
I
exactly
did pull my
what.
hair a little bit, but I just appreciate that you got it caught in time, that you have people that are proficient in government accounting. And it wasn't like years of going back, so it was a reasonable amount.
Yeah. Well, when we hired the accounting firm, I think we assumed probably, obviously wrongly, that they were putting us in a position to have all of this taken care of as we started. That didn't happen. So thank you.
Yeah, great job.
I have a couple of items I was hoping I could check on with payroll. So we got some notices delivered to our houses that our health insurance was gonna get canceled.
It's all caught up.
It's all caught up now.
Yep.
And then,
We had a period of time, we were having problems getting access to the account, and so we did a wire transfer. And so everything's caught up and we're paid ahead now.
okay, so those notices are
Yeah.
all taken care of. And it sounded to me, like we talked a little bit earlier, but it sounded like we're on track for getting up to date on the retirement issues.
Yes, we have a set meeting for the 17th to do a Zoom between all 3 of us to get those accounts taken care of and caught up also
On the 17th of
December.
December, okay, great. And then same question for HSA, just to,
I believe that should be next week sometime. It's gonna take a little bit of reconciliation, but we do know that there's a couple months that we need to account for. And so that also will be getting caught up.
good deal. All right, thank you, appreciate that.
At one point, we had talked about engaging with the federal county post. If they still need to do that.
Yeah, and we had talked about getting a hold of Grace Farr, and I think you guys contacted him, but I don't, did you ever look at hold of him?
I don't know, yeah, I have a cell phone number.
She's got a direct line.
But, I was only asking him for the budget, I didn't know what I was supposed to ask. I was only asking him for the budget, so.
I know that the topics come up further and we didn't really have anything to talk to them about. And if we need to go further and engage that, we can do that now.
I think this is great, and getting it moved forward like this is a huge win for us. At some point, when you get a chance to send me the 80-page, whatever, you know, the full chart of accounts, preferably digitally.
There's There's a link on that.
Okay, there's a link on here, okay.
Yeah, I did look into it. I considered it also printing it and.
No, use the
That's
right
why I don't
choice,
print it.
do not print it, otherwise we'd have to make a new line for the
Right.
printer paper for account, but, no, I appreciate this, thank you.
So I guess the thing now is, I mean, just great job, guys, but. So
Can I
now,
leave now? Or do you still want me to stay?
I don't have any further questions.
Okay.
I think we're just trying to finish up our questions here, so.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of visiting with Greg, one of the things you touched on was that you have worked with nonprofit and government entities. And state and tribal entities, we are neither.
I know, that's why I wanted, I really.
So- So I think even if this is perfect, it just makes me think we should sit down with him once, just to kind of do what you've done here.
Absolutely.
Explain and say, look, if you have any questions or thoughts as we move forward or suggestions, from your perspective, you know, let us have it. And maybe at least a one-time sit down with you with it.
I agree.
I
That's
think
a good suggestion,
Very good.
and then. Kayla had given us an example of how the state does their budget too, and I passed that on to Tina and Rhonda. And so at some point, we're gonna have to decide if that's the format we're gonna use or not, and that goes back to every month when they come to report to us, then we have the column of what our budget is, how much we spent that much, how far along are we relative, if we're 50% through the fiscal year, 40% through, and then what our balance is, and then a final column showing what we're above and below. And so Tina was gonna work on that also, so it's a work in progress
so,
for future reporting.
look at meeting with Greg.
Yeah.
And then also we need to do the follow-up with the state to figure out what financial reporting we need. They're expecting some financial reporting so that we can, and we need to get a calendar on that, so, because I think they were expecting regular reports. So
Yes.
as we start that, we need to get on the calendar so that the schedule, so that they're actually doing that as they need.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say, so we were for 10 weeks overdue on that reporting. September 30th was when we were supposed to, so Ethan, you need to really prioritize getting this budget in and getting using what they've got and being able to report to the funding agencies.
You didn't want to hang out with us?
No. I got work to do.
Ah. All right, thank you.
Yeah, let me, I'm going here
Thank you for your time.
and. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Board business. Next item on the agenda. Building subcommittee. RFP updates.
I guess I can handle that, sure, and Ken and George, if you're free, if I miss something. To chime in, but pretty short and sweet. We had two statement of qualifications. One was from MMW Architects, the other was from Loci Architects and Design. And we reviewed them and we thought they were pretty similar and both highly qualified. So in essence, we couldn't make a decision, so we thought, let's interview them. So our next step then is to schedule interviews and see if we can better discern who we'd want to select.
Yeah, both firms seem highly qualified.
Where are they from?
Both of them was the. And both of them had, they came with a cadre of support entities such as engineering companies, planning entities, and they both actually were composed primarily of the same team, except for the architects. So it really boils down to, okay, which architect firm best suits our needs.
Thank you. Whose drawing is this?
Well, this is the next topic. This would be lease option.
So, there was one firm that I know we reached out to a couple, so these are the only ones that responded, I guess that's fine. Good start.
Yeah, oh, good response, I mean, so.
Let you know when those interviews are.
I guess one of the things we chatted about this morning was one of the organizations that does have more experience working within tribal government. And we wanted to coordinate with you and get your good thoughts, Clayton, on when we get to that point where, if this all aligns and we can build an office for the board. A lot of it depends on how the land comes about, right? And
Well, there were two pieces to this, if you recall, and I had early on touched base with the tribe in the state, indicating that they need to work together and work with us to define a location. So we're gonna need to, as we make progress, and I need to get back in touch with them and say that needs to get progressing. The way this was early laid out, the reason I can be part of the interview or not, but I think the whole idea right now is we need to get to, I'm gonna interview them, but maybe the first thing we need to do after you interview them is to get them both to submit something that indicates, based on the information we have right now, what it would cost for them to develop a draft of a building without knowing the site.
that's fair.
And if they could provide us with the cost of that, we need to go ask for the money. We don't have that money yet. And that was the whole premise behind this, is that once we have that cost, whatever the number is, let's say it's $10,000, it's gonna be more. Then we need to reach out to the state and to the tribe and say, this is gonna cost, this is what we're doing. It's gonna cost us $10,000, and we're asking them to put that money, provide us with supplemental money to what we're doing here. They're gonna ask us if we have it in the budget. My guess is the number is gonna be higher than we wanna try to take out of our budget to do that. If they can provide that supplemental money, if we get that money, then we can pay them to provide the first draft. And then we get a location. And then we need then we need a final draft so that we know what it's gonna cost to build on a site. That number then is what we turn around and submit to the tribe and the state, and whatever their time frame is, probably the next legislative session. I don't know that we'll have something ready for this coming section that starts in January, but if we were able to get something that far along, we provide it, but then when we have that final dollar amount, give it to them. And then we would need to push them to provide the total amount so that we can actually fund a building and secure it on site. So it's a little complicated, and iterative, but that's sort of what's in my head about how we're approaching this, but from the from we have more experience working with the tribe or not, that's, you know, that's kind of the
Well, you know, one thing I just thought of while we're sitting here too, with that budget that we were just talking about. So you could put in another, you know, in addition to those other three things we talked about, you could add one that said building design
yeah,
and put a couple $100,000 or something into that.
yeah.
So, but, and probably we're gonna need more of that, but at least for a start, it'd be earmarked in there.
Or at least put the line item in, because what we want to do is have it funded. If we show that we're gonna take it out of our budget, or just say, well, go ahead. I'm arguing that we try to get the extra money from that,
Mhm. Makes sense.
that's all. But I get you're right. Probably needs to be at least a line item.
So yeah, I guess we'll call these guys and set up a time to interview them.
Yeah.
Try and select one.
All right. Anything more on that one? All right, we just on to reshopping.
Uh. So the last meeting we had, there was some concern expressed about this building and that there's lack of windows and other potential things. And I just happened to be going through Folsom one day and saw a sign on that old Glacier Bank building.
Well, that's what this is.
Yeah, and so I called the number, and the guy had let me in and showed it to me. So what you have in front of you is, it's vacant. They're interested, it's right now a junk building set up for a bank, they recognize that they have to renovate that. And so they'd actually have two plans already drawn up for the renovation. And they sent me both of their, you know, conceptual schematics. One of them has it so that there's a large conference room. The other one has a small conference room with an additional office, work area. It's a 2-story building. The basement doesn't have any windows. There's a break room type situation in the basement and storage. That's really all the basement could be used for. But it does have lots of windows. But they haven't done anything. If we were interested in leasing, they would configure it the way we would want it. Because they haven't done anything. And when I was in there, you know, this is their schematic, but when you walk in that entrance foyer, there's areas to the right and the left that a couple of offices could be put in there also. So, and a couple of these offices are big enough to put a divider in and make them 2 offices. So, you know, I just thought, okay, I'll check it out and see what's going on, and then just provide this information to the board. See if there's any interest in, you know, in relocating. You know, in the last meeting we had, there was an item on our agenda, lease extension. I don't see that's on this agenda, but since we're talking about the lease, I don't know where, I can't remember where we're at relative to what our lease is, and maybe you can calculate it on that either.
So where we left things, we are. The board engaged in a 3-year lease here with this building. It expires next May. And where we left things at the last meeting was that you guys were thumbs up on a 2-year extension, possibly a 3-year extension. I am in the process of trying to see with the landlord if we can get some money off of the rent, which is what the chairman was interested in. If we did some renovations on this building, namely looking at windows, paint, that kind of stuff. And so I think the summary was, well, it's cheap for rent as far as rent goes. But the board seemed interested in signing the 2-year thing, but we decided to see if we could get something better. And either like add that 3rd year with these other provisions, possibly even consider a first right of refusal, I'm gonna call it, for the 3rd year of lease if it was gonna go up to lease for somebody else. That would buy us 2 years solid and then possibly be able to get the 3rd year if we knew it was gonna get swept out. And I have not moved that. I don't have a new arrangement for you. That's on my to-do list. I have a pretty thorough to-do list.
Well, we probably, based on the timeframe, have until even February, or March, or maybe late April to figure this out. Unless she says we need to do something sooner.
Yes, so she is interested in, getting us to sign on to at least the 2 years. That said though, I'm just telling you, she's interested.
She's interested, but
in
there's
that,
no,
but whatever your
there's
obligation
nothing
is.
nothing in the lease or nothing we have contracted that says that we have to make that decision now. We can string this along until February, March.
Yeah, I
Make
mean,
a
well,
decision.
so, I'm not disagreeing, I'm just bringing up other aspects. There was a realtor who, came through. The brewery was interested possibly in, buying this building. They also, had hoped maybe their board and your board could get together and at least just discuss the idea of jointly purchasing this building. Which, I didn't see a lot of enthusiasm about that last time we talked, so I haven't pursued that or tried to set something up with the 2 boards, but.
But she hasn't said anything about moving and selling.
No,
Okay,
but,
okay,
if it does sell, we
But
will
it's
talk about
but it's out there.
it.
Okay,
That's out there, so.
okay.
I'm just trying to give you the full.
Yeah.
The full risk, pro con.
Yep.
Items.
George.
Well, just one little comment here. For those who may not be familiar with this building, I think it's important to note that the entire north side of this is lakefront. So you are in like a dungeon here, and we know that that's not fun for you. So this building has a spectacular. Yes.
What's this?
Well, I didn't,
2250, I asked what the rent was, what we paid,
50 a month.
50 more. Did they give us any numbers on this yet?
They had initially thrown out 3,600 per month. And I don't, I talked to the guy on the way down. They had some other ideas, but then the guy that's the phone contact, it's not his property, it's his brother-in-law's property. And so he has to get a hold of, he's the decision maker, he's kind of the intermediary. So, I just bring this up as an option for consideration.
Did you say there's a basement?
Yeah, there's a basement, yeah. The basement really is nothing more than cold storage or warm storage and a break room. There's a kitchen downstairs.
Is it a full basement?
Yeah, it's a big
A
basement.
lot of space there.
Yeah, lots of space, but there's no windows in the basement.
Yeah.
Um,
So
But,
if you
you know,
miss this building, you can move into the basement. So
We
be in another windowless
Do
environment.
we have a square footage of this? Is our lease talk about square footage? Do you know what our square footage is here?
Yeah. Yeah, Hanny, thanks.
it's like. Was on that lease agreement,
Yeah.
2550, nothing.
I need some load time here, hold on. 26.
So current square footage?
2600.
Yeah. Yep.
That includes upstairs?
At least that's what I have on this lease agreement.
That would not include the basement.
You're talking
Here,
about upstairs.
Right.
here, but
Here.
you're not doing it with the basement here. This is
Right,
just-
so the
Yeah.
number that
Yeah,
you just got was the main floor. there.
yep,
Right.
yep. And this one, 23, 26. Oh, that's just the upstairs, right?
Yeah, that's the main floor. I guess I just thought if we were gonna put money into this, we're gonna put money into this that we'll never recover. Or do we want to look at options also?
Yeah.
Office space is tough.
2,250.
What? Couldn't hear
2,250.
you. Okay, that's our rent. Okay. Yeah,
So, but obviously after going through our budget today too, we do have funds that we can, I mean, we're not set on this lease rate.
Yeah. yeah. Yeah, and I would assume that if they put money into revamping like that would be reflected in the lease rate.
Now, that 3,600 is what he told me now.
Yeah.
You know, so they came back to me today with 3,000, but then they wanted to do triple net. And I said, no, triple net's not on the table. Triple net means that you pay the taxes, you pay the building insurance, and you pay, I think you pay all the utilities. And so that's 3,000 plus triple net. He didn't know what the triple net was, but when I've done those numbers before, that's gonna be a lot more than a base rate, so.
That's the very.
Yeah. So
Thoughts, questions?
I would be a little curious, Mr. Chairman, on how the staff would feel about moving into something with more windows, you know. Seems like a good ideal to me, but you know, how does our staff feel about it?
And the commute, if we do, the commute's gonna be longer for everybody probably, except for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get my lease in.
Yeah. I would also assume that this would not stop us from moving forward with new building plan.
There's gonna be one of my questions, is this,
Yeah.
I mean, I would. Yeah.
Pros and cons,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think, you know, a new building. I think realistically, you're probably 4 years out there.
Mhm.
Because by the time you get into the next legislative session for funding,
Mhm.
and then you get your money, then you've got to go through all the SOQ process to hire a design firm, engineering firm. And then once they get plans developed, it'll probably take them anywhere from 6 to 12 months to develop plans. Then it's gonna, you have to go out to bid. And then. So they're not, and I haven't talked to them anything about a lease duration. But I just, there was concern about the habitability of this building, so I just saw this, thought I'd explore it.
So, Mr. Chairman, I was curious, the staff, you know where the Glacier building is?
Yes.
Any thoughts on the commute?
So I no longer live in Rodan, I live out in Carolina, and so now, my commute to Polson would be about an hour.
Each one?
Each way. I don't mind too much, but it is certainly a variable.
Rhonda?
I think this building is beautiful. I love the idea of looking at the lake, but I have very little commute, and so it would be an additional commute for myself also.
Really needs on you guys for sure.
No. James.
I'll let James
James-
Nelson. Start. He's like, I want the.
James would have the first commute.
Right.
For me, I like Rodan because it's easy for folks who are looking for water rights work to get here from, it's pretty central to the reservation, and so we get a lot of like, wow, you're right, Rodan? Perfect, right? So that would be a factor, that would be a pro for this. Obviously, this building's got some hangups, but if we had even a fraction of that's 16,200 a year more to rent. If we were to put some of that money into this building, it might be a little bit better. I also am trying to figure out, some good ways to I have some ideas on how to make this building a little bit easier to tolerate, but kind of working through that right now. For me, it is certainly adding it into the commute is not something that I would say was enthusiastic for me. That's at least, 18, 20 minutes, one way more. I like to look at the lake.
I know, pros and cons, right? Exactly.
I do think that this gets into an item that we're gonna go into, which is we're in the middle of recruitment. And this throws maybe a hiccup into the recruitment. People do at least need to know where they're gonna work when they, I feel bad because we just recruited with Ronan. And so maybe that's not that big of a deal, but it closes today, and that was the whole recruitment. I'm trying to, I know this is like spaghetti at the wall on different thoughts, but
Well, it's good. We asked for your input, so it's good to know what your thoughts are. These are things we wouldn't have thought of on our, so.
what I don't see here is, like, one of these days, you guys are gonna fill this room up with people at a meeting.
All right.
I don't see that here. Like, it doesn't mean you can't get another venue, but that is getting another venue, and that, I don't, the basement, I don't know how big it is or whatever, but,
Well, I like the idea that you don't know if you noticed, but if they get out of hand, it has a vault.
yes. I was
Just
sitting here
throwing
trying
it
to
out
think
there.
like, maybe we could repurpose that for files or whatever.
That's the board's
I think
enforcement.
that's far
A lot of
gone.
people involved.
That's,
What's the parking?
it's one bathroom less than what's here. Oh, is there a brewery attached to this building?
It's, one block away, yeah.
All right, well, that's good enough.
Got better restaurants.
Yeah, food options.
The food options are significant.
The bowling alleys are ways away.
We're at least continue to explore.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe a few more people can take a look at it, and
Yeah. So
just explore.
Ken and I counted parking spaces. They're gonna, supposedly they're gonna, well, if we got it, we're gonna take the island out where the drive-through is. So that would open up more parking, but I think we counted about 10 spaces when we were there.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe I never really spent much time around the back of that.
so I mean, I don't know, you know, the parking here is just on the street, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah,
Mhm.
got it.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. So, during the early spring, we had a lot of problems with water in this basement.
Uh-huh.
Did that produce mold?
So, we had mold problem here. And we did a significant mold remediation to remove all of the mold. And then that was coupled with, substantial improvements to the sump pump. Full replacement of the water heater, full replacement of the heater. The addition of air conditioning, which I'd want to double check and make sure we had air conditioning on this building. And so we have pretty new central heat and air, and the downstairs has thus remained dry. And
Was that results of a broken pipe? Is that what put all the water there, or is that something that?
the
could
water
occur
that was
again?
down there was because of the failed sump pump.
Okay.
Um,
So it
that,
collects water if you get a lot of rain.
yeah, well, so
Heavy rains.
your next spring will
See what happens.
be the test, okay?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so far, so good. It was actually on my list of things that I do periodically go down there and check. I
Mhm.
was gonna do that earlier today, but didn't get to it, so maybe I'll go run down there before I make a liar out of myself, but I do believe we got the mold issue and the standing water issues resolved downstairs.
Thank you.
So being a bank building, I'm assuming it's got some built-in security features already?
I didn't check that.
Yeah. Something to check out.
We'll try breaking in and see what happens.
No. I know where the vault is, but it's empty.
Mr. Vice Chairman, the day's not over.
Okay, so sounds like consensus to at least continue to explore. So, you know, let us know what you can set up and we can try to get some more people there. Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw in another little wrench into all this too. So I think it would be important for the board to consider other funding options besides the legislative session. There are public grants that can be applied for things like building or capital campaigns. So I think it would be worth it for the board to look into those options as well, instead of kind of waiting for 4 years.
Speaking to a new building.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, well, good suggestion. Actually, I hadn't thought of that. I think that, not sure how, well will be received being a government, what are we? A government instrumentality?
Right,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
if you apply for grants, you have to be a 501c3 typically. And because we can also receive revenue, I don't know how many funding agencies would bump us out of the running. But I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I just, that's a wrinkle, isn't it, that we keep bumping into because we are an odd little duck out there, tax wise.
Potentially, I mean, the IRS considers us an entity. So we just have to go through the actual process of getting that determined by them, but they consider us an entity, a public entity. So I don't see anything holding us up really with the, whether it's a government entity or government instrumentality anymore.
So, when do you start?
With the grants. I can do some quick research.
We probably would need to have, at least a hit list of possible places to consider and then go from there.
On that front, I don't think there'd be anything wrong to try to see if we could shake any federal funding loose.
Yeah, well, if we can
So-
come up with a list of possible avenues to attack, let's at least start looking. I mean,
I'd be happy to help share. I have a little running thing of places I thought we might try to check out.
That might
I can put my head
actually
together with
be-
Haley and see if we can come up with something.
That might actually be a good question for Greg Carr when we get him, there might be something he might have. Knowledge of.
Well, one more thing we talked about in our meeting earlier today, that may be relevant to this discussion, is it's actually to our benefit, I think, if any type of construction decision gets pushed out past 4 years. Because the research that we have looked into shows that if tariffs go into place next year, building costs across all the trades can inflate. And I researched this weekend, depending on if it's wiring and ductwork or lumber or drywall, anywhere from 25 to 75% increase in construction costs once tariffs go in. So if we wait another 4 years, that might be a different financial equation.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, if we can, yeah, good ideas. Yeah, if we can, sort of put together a list of possible targets, and see what their requirements are. Yeah. Good. I think that might actually help with our funding too, because if they know that we're actually seeking alternative funding. sources, that might be useful for them.
CDBG monies might be a place to start. Community Development Block Grant Funds are a good source perhaps, huh? Okay.
Well, sometimes wrenches are useful too. You should call me interested. That's good.
That's a good wrench.
And all of that. Yeah. Are we, we're not a 501(c), are we?
No.
No, I mean, well, we don't have the actual determination yet, so.
So when we get that from the IRS, that's not the covers.
We would be a 501(c) something.
And some funders are real sticklers about that. They will not get off of that stipulation. Some may be a little more fluid, but
Yeah, we'll just have to be creative.
yeah, we have been all along, haven't we? So.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
All right. Time for break. Thank you.
Oh, I have reason.
Aria, yeah. Hi.
All right, welcome back. We're off the break. We're on to, item number 6 on our agenda, office of the water engineer.
Mr. Chairman, board members, I have a handout. I understand that there was a printing mishap on the water rights reports for December 10th, 2024. But you've seen this document before. We're just trying to bring it back in front of you. James did create this. James, I'll give you the opportunity to talk if you have any observations you'd like to make about the report that you produced.
A couple of additions in the bottom for other application types. We've moved quite a few extra not substitutes, sorry, 180-day and suspended water rights. That bumped up this last go round just based off of some recent work we've done. But no it's been pretty standard, pretty steady with the water right application proceed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Frakes. Do you have any questions for Mr. Frakes on the water rate report?
I was just curious, why is March such a big month? Are people just gearing up for things in March?
Early spring, I'm sure.
Just getting rolling. March is the biggest month. I was just curious, what's going on in the spring?
Yeah, it's May.
As number of permits issued is 18.
So the number of permits that we issue, especially back. I got that in April. Yeah, so back,
Well, approved.
if you look at the database,
Issued.
those were done kind of in batches.
Oh,
Which
okay,
makes
so
it a
it
lot.
doesn't mean that month.
No,
Gotcha, okay.
Oh, you're going to issue, I've seen 18. Yeah.
All right, as you're looking at that, Mr. Chairman, board members, I'll go over some other items. I'd like to tell you that we're happy to announce that we have approved the first Part A for a development domestic allowance. As I'm talking, I'm gonna have James pull up the map for that particular issuance because it was a complicated issuance that involved the issuance of the 5 other water rights that needed to be addressed. So that was kind of, that's exciting. And we'll be looking at our first measuring device and measuring device assessment for that. And this right here, I think is just something worth looking at. It's one of many documents, but this gives you a little taste of what is involved in one of these. And what we had was multiple ownerships of parcels that were touching. And so all of that hard work that you board members sat through in terms of providing the Office of the Water Engineer direction on how to assess what is or is not a development and how we would take a look at permit exceptions in a cumulative annual volume amount. This is it in reality. Now that orange dashed line is a 40-acre parcel, which was pulled out based on this body's direction about 40-acre parcels and exceptions and 10-acre for every 40 acre parcel. And you know, there's not anything really other than letting you see what it looks like on the other end. And also, I bring this forward so that you get an idea of some of the complexities. You'll see that there's a small RV lot, there's a wedding center, there's multiple houses, there's some small landscape irrigation. What am I missing there, Mr. Frakes? Some stock. Stock. We got some stock in there. So like you want it, it's all, it's all right here in one combined array, and it does show the need to look at these things on a more some kind of a basis other than one by one, because there is a larger group effect of all these uses sort of strung together. Anyway, I hope you got some entertainment out of that. Next, I will say that we do have a second development.
Can we get that map?
Yes, sir, of course.
Second longer.
Yep.
Everyone clear on what we're looking at? Where is this?
When do you like make it?
Timber Lane Road out by Maurice Paul.
Is this the
They do
silver
the
knot?
weddings out there.
Is it the silver knot?
It is. So
Mhm.
Okay,
this is, you said this is where you got married?
the silver knot.
Oh.
What'd you say?
They do marriages there, like she said, the Silver Knot.
Well, that's that new development out there.
My daughters had to
I've
do
driven by there.
Yeah.
That's what this is. So,
And some of their stuff has been unresolved for.
Roger.
So this is our first domestic development allowance. What is it for?
Sure, so the thing that pushed this particular applicant over was, the assemblage of all these other uses and then that RV lot. So we have, was it 16, I think?
Yeah.
Right up in here, and then that's a shared well with this, other arrangement, and that's the road. Huh?
Roads, River Lane Road is what's the main road.
It's up at the top.
But, that was the progenitor for, needing to be that along with the other cumulative volumes of a few of the other items.
So Clayton, on the dotted orange, where it makes that corner, if you take a right, that's where Clarice Paul would be. The housing.
So is the domestic development for? So I take it those numbers are wells, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Those are, places of use.
Places that we use.
Pointed diversion are the purple stars.
Mhm.
Those are wells. They're all wells.
And you have separate numbers, multiple numbers out, a couple of them, so that means multiple owners,
Shared wells.
shared ones.
Yeah. All three of these parcels are owned by the same people.
I drive back there all the time, just trying to figure out. Okay.
So is the permit then for the RV spaces?
Yes, the development domestic allowance, handles the RV spaces and, the water out of that storm. Additionally, though, we did, bring up to speed multiple suspended pending, right? I think it was a mixed bag.
There was, 4 suspended water rights that we issued. And we also passed one, approval to construct an individual restaurant.
Which got a separate run at things because of the 40-acre parcel arrangement. So this is like all of those WP&Ps kind of coming to a certain head, and then it combines with our desire to, anytime we're going to touch properties that have a new water right, we want to resolve all water right issues at that time, if possible.
So which one or ones will be monitored?
The one feeding the RV lots.
Putting a measuring device on there.
Yep, a totalizer.
They pay for that, is that a standard, is there a standard equipment that we recommend for that, or how does that work?
We intentionally do not recommend standard equipment. That is up to the water user to figure out. Similar, we wouldn't recommend a pump or something else. And, what we do is, reserve the right to come and inspect the installation and,
We just tell them what information we want,
yep.
and how do we know it's accurate?
That's why you got folks like me at this office. You try to figure out if it looks legit or not. And, I'll do what I can.
But when they do set up a measuring device, they provide us with the information about it.
Yes, and not only that, there's a measuring device approval form. So like at the end of, when they get to their part B, spot, we either, use photos or go out on site, and that looks like that's installed correct in the right spot and doing the right thing. And then, and that is a formal step of acknowledging that, and then they'll provide us with the water right will stipulate the reporting requirements.
Any other questions, observations on this?
I have a dumb question.
No, nothing about.
If it's under the ownership of those two people, is the shared well designated because the use is shared?
It's because it crosses a boundary of two parcels, so.
Gotcha.
So our concern is that eventually one of those parcels may be sold. And if, even though they own both parcels at the time, if they have a shared well arrangement that specifies those two parcels, that would be then a pertinent to future land transactions, then that helps eliminate the issue of them selling that off and then somebody going, well, I got a well, but now I don't have access to my place of use or something to that effect, right?
Okay, now I get it. Thank you.
And we would normally call for that at the Part B, because we want to see it filed with the county. Now, somebody can, of course, thwart those best laid plans, but we do what we can to address these parcels up for success in the future.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
So when you say it's been approved, so we send something back to them and they have something in hand.
So they have two preliminary approvals, one for an individual domestic allowance that's in the upper left quadrant. Then one for the development domestic allowance that serves the RV and some other uses. And then they also got the issuance of 4 suspended water rights that have been in limbo. I don't remember the exact priority dates of those filings, but we did go in and resolve. We looked at the filings and we resolved them all and then issued them accordingly. So this group of people ended up with 4 issuances of like water rights that are just done, and then 2 preliminary approvals so that they can go install their wells. In the case of the RV lot, it was already in existence, but because we also have those other WP&P items that allow somebody to use an existing well, we were able to get this, into compliance using a new application.
Is there any surface water associated with this?
We do not have any record or knowledge of any surface water out there going on.
Right, a stream or a ditch?
North Crow.
There is some surface water, but I was like being water right centric. That's right, Mr. Chairman. Okay.
Yeah. Anybody have fun with this one?
Oh, yeah. This was the real water work, right?
Yeah.
All right.
We're starting
Cool.
to get to it. All right, thank you.
Oh, that's indeed, yep. Yeah, that would take some other agencies a long time to sort that out, and here we've got it moving forward. So as mentioned, we expect to see another interesting development domestic allowance here in the future. So they're starting to roll in. It's really the main part of that update is to let you know that is more complicated. Water right types are, they're out there and they're in the works.
Developers are waiting.
Yep, and engaging at this point. So I think I already mentioned a little bit about no, I did not. Other news, we've got a formal complaint that was filed with the office, and tomorrow, we had originally tried to schedule the hearing for tomorrow, but that got bumped, and so we're looking at doing a scheduling conference call tomorrow, but things are moving forward with that active water right administrative activity. I thought you should know. Let's see, starting to get a lot of stock water allowance traffic increase. My understanding is that the state of Montana and the tribes through the CITT have gone out and engaged some public and set a deadline for an application to get alternative stock water funding, the details of which I don't have all of right now, but I do know that that's having people call our office to try to figure out what they've got to do for a water right application. And so that's going on. We expect to see a fair amount of additional traffic on stock water uses.
Do we,
applications.
just a question, do we have or will we have some kind of standard information we'll give out to people who call on that?
The standard information that we have is really just held in the heads of the water resource specialist or hydrologist. And the situations are they're all pretty specific in that, and I'm not trying to be evasive about the answer, Mr. Chairman, but a lot of these, it takes me having to figure out what they actually need to do, because we see multiple ownerships that they're wanting to serve, some in fee, some in trust. Some of that trust is individual, some of that trust is part of the tribal trust. And so there is a real network of decision-making that we have to do based, where I've got live cadastral information and water right information all kind of pooled in there together to help answer those questions as they come forward. So they're, and I think that's part of why the CITT folks have just like pushed them into our office, the water right application phase.
Sure. Deadline for the funding?
We have a DNRC staff member with their hand up as an attendee.
Okay. So, all right, but, Libby?
Hey there, this is Blair Libby. Sorry I couldn't make it in person today. I think you all can hear me, right?
We hear.
Great. I was just gonna mention if there's any questions about the stock water funding grant, any more specific questions, I can try to answer them. And then there is one more help session this coming Monday. So probably next week, there's going to be more people starting applications, and there will be probably more calls and such to the office. But if there's any information I should forward, I think most of the materials were sent to Elise, James, and Sydney, but I can send more and anything else you need.
No, I would just ask if you guys have everything you need for what we're doing. And then how's the turnout? What's the demand looking like?
They had really great turnout yesterday when they were in Ronan, and they're expecting even more people in Polson. So good turnout.
And what's the deadline?
January 10th is the application deadline.
And whose funding is this?
This is part of the settlement funding that is through the compact implementation technical team to provide alternative stock water for areas where open source ditch and other stock sources may undergo change. I'll say it, because there's probably a whole host of things.
Whose deadline is it?
That would be, I assume that's a deadline from the CITT. And that does not involve the water right applications, because, frankly, if you were to start a water right application with our office today, we have until January the 10th to even respond to you for the first round. We get done faster than that, but the water right application would of course be supplemental to the initial grant application.
Yeah, not that it's our direct problem, but as always, application deadlines tend to come and go, and then after that, people tend to say, I didn't know about the deadline. And so I'm assuming that they'll be considering that, but anyway.
And also, just so you know, we have been in coordination with the tribe's water right office, the tribal TWRO, tribal water right office, to help field those issues regarding the trust land, fee land interface. So we're working with everybody, really. Good. Okay.
Thank you, Blair.
Thank you all.
All right, other water right items. I think Haley and I are about to start figuring out a good. We're working with the state to formalize a plan for transfers of state-based registrations. We'll hear something from us when we get that developed, and I expect that to, probably before the end of the year, is what I'm hoping. So I see a nod from Haley. That's gonna meet her timeline as well. I can shift off of water rights right now, if that's okay, and talk a little bit about technology for the office. And I wanted to let you know that I did utilize the Black Friday sale and picked up 3 new portable workstations. They're pretty awesome. Look forward to getting those set up. They're in the box new upstairs right now. You authorized 2 of those workstations, and one of them was just purchased under my purchasing authority. They happen to all 3 be under your maximum allowed for 2 because of the sale. But so anyway, we're moving forward with some new computers, so we're excited about that. Tomorrow, that's right, tomorrow, we're gonna start pushing multi-factor authorization upgrades on this whole office. So prepare yourselves to jump through a few hoops when you get to logging in. And you may need to find a little bit of opportunity to connect with our excellent paid for IT folks. And so we can get, not everybody, some of you have already gone through the multi-factor authorization, but we need everybody to get, it's gonna be mandatory for everybody to get under that array. So when you log on to your emails through your phone or through your computer, you can plan on having that thing where it wants a fancy password and it wants to send you something on your phone.
Primarily email.
For you guys, yes, but it depends on how much you would use what we call OneDrive, the cloud storage, because your whole profile of files, which includes your email, your calendars, and your share drives that you use are under that same arrangement. It is essential that we maintain a high quality, secure system there so that we don't get hacked.
I think you just brought up a good point, Ethan, that all these shared files, I don't know how to do that. I don't know if any other board members done it. But maybe we should have a tutorial on that.
You're happy to add that in. Do you think maybe sometime around the start of the next year would be an appropriate timing?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, I'll get something set up. I'll do my best. And
You're doing that at a regular meeting?
training.
Yeah.
Just do it at a meeting.
We either do it that way, or I can give you some canned training that you work through on your own time. And if you'd like to think about how you'd like to see this roll out, I'm happy to.
Well, what are we talking about in terms of what we need training on?
Well, it depends on how much of a Luddite everybody is, and so.
No,
to get Ken up-
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about, we're gonna email, what else?
I think that the discussion was shared files, right? And so if you want to learn how to like log in and use the shared folders, which happen through either the internet variant called SharePoint, or they can be mapped to your FRWMB laptop. And that, we do that training. If you would like to also have training on how to do calendar events and improve email, we can set up a whole, a suite for you. I'd be happy to do that. And I don't know if you guys knew this, but anybody here can actually look at my calendar. And that gives you opportunity to see where I'm at, what I'm doing. And similar, all staff members are designated within our infrastructure to have their calendars as a shared resource. Haley's in a separate kit, but she can see us, which seems to work enough for now.
Can is a relative term.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway,
So what training you guys want? Shared files, we'll start with that, so yes, shared files, and then what else?
Calendar.
What's that?
The calendar part of it.
Calendar,
okay,
emails, you guys?
Yeah.
Need something on emails?
Yes,
Okay, so we have email, calendar, shared files, what else is there?
Teams. Microsoft Teams, which is frequently used by staff in this organization. It's a love-hated program.
That one I use. So given that, off the top of your head, how much time? We would say, all right, let's tackle this in
2 hour, I don't think anybody should suffer through more than 2 hours at a time, with that type of training.
So you guys want to do that at a special meeting or? We can do it on your own?
I think I'd like to try it on my own first. See how that works. Doesn't work, then maybe reconvene it. I'm thinking special meeting, because our regular meetings, every minute's
Yeah,
taken.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. If you try it on our own and if it doesn't, we're struggling, then let's do it.
Great, we'll let you know that this will be an additional charge to our regular IT services, and I'll set up that, and I think what you've authorized me to spend without board approval is more than sufficient to cover the training, okay?
So who will do the training?
We'll get somebody assigned to do the training, which they can do as a recording or a webinar, so that you can watch it at your own time from the IT organization.
Okay, that's why it's cost. That's why the cost.
Yeah, it is, it would be something in addition. Otherwise, we could assign James to do this training.
Well, if he's gonna stay.
Right. So, and so as you think about it, if you'd rather have a staff member set this webinar up and show you some things, we could go that route too.
For me, it's 6 one, half a dozen of the other. I think having videos done that you can watch that we're gonna pay for. Now, I don't know what the cost would be. Does it matter to you how much it's gonna cost?
Well, I think I'd like to know.
Yeah, so
We'll bring it back to you for an approval then?
at least information, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
At least an email sending out information. This is what it's gonna cost to set up this training.
Okay, and then you could maybe respond to me, separately, you tell me if you're a go or not, and I can just do it under my purchasing arrangement, yep. As opposed to like a more.
Can we start with? You got all this down, right?
I don't think I have access.
He does not have access, and that's.
So I'm good.
Like, leave it that way. That sounds good to me.
Should we just do that for all of us and make it simple? There's no access? So we don't need training.
I'll be out of the country for at least a month, so
Big vacation.
Sorry.
tomorrow.
Oh, so
So you will have some restricted access unless you're gonna, if you want me to make a special exception to you, because I did limit our domain to within the United States.
Okay.
Because I'm not interested in fielding foreign connections with our with our internal documents, so.
I would say no special exception.
Okay, so you just gonna be out, we can text you if there's something crazy, if your texter works. Yep. Okay,
in that way, if we, at least the information, and then we'll go from there.
yeah, and so that does, just so everybody knows, if you go to Canada or Mexico, you would be, unless you set up something in advance with me for a special portal, they're gonna see where you're at, and they're gonna say no. So, I hope that helps, but I know it's more details, but sometimes you should probably know some of the things I'm trying to figure out first.
Let's, and then, let's see how much, that'll cost, and let's see how much it will cost for, James.
Okay.
No.
The last item on the tech front is that I have been in discussion with our tech folks. We're trying to roll out a new AI security system. Just to let you know, at present, I'm unconvinced, and instead I'm gonna focus on getting this multi-factor authentication done and probably, maybe push you guys to do a little more engaged training. Because the AI can't stop you from clicking on malware, which is what happens. And so the thing that we really have to worry about is that you will go in and somebody will send you something that, maybe you think it's your water engineer, but it's not your water engineer, because I'm telling you about picnic tables or something that's a little out of the ordinary. You click on it and it puts a keylogger on here. And then whatever you start to engage in with your passwords and everything can get, that's the main way that people access systems. So it's a human condition. And the AI can try to help eliminate that, but not really. Because if it's so good that it helps to eliminate that, then you all of a sudden can't do your regular functions. And so that said, though, I'm still trying to learn about it and keep an open mind so that if this does look like a resource for us, I'll be prepared to come in here and give you a pitch, okay?
I hate AI.
Yep.
But it's coming, it's here, there's nothing we can do about it. Oh, they got phones now, they got people on commercials talking to their phones. Having conversations, it's like, that's terrible, absolutely terrible.
Okay. So, not a big, exciting, push for AI, and, I did predict that would be the. I'm right with you.
The training though, when you talk about multi-factor authentication, do we need to include that? Is everybody familiar with what that is?
No.
So we do have.
So Ken is not, so you probably want to make sure we touch on that too.
Yep, and I'll send out a message tomorrow that gives you a heads up. And it's just gonna sort of be one of those things that's gonna happen to you, and you're gonna figure out what you have to do, and then you'll just do that for the rest of the time, and you'll know that that's how you log on now. Okay? And there could be some rough patches, but we'll get through it.
And if you run into something there, just give a holler to one of us. And just, it's typically you go to log into your email and then it'll say enter code and you'll get a text.
Okay, yeah, I've run into that, yeah.
That's all that is.
And so the guy that I did assign to help you, his name is also Ethan. So just be aware that but there's an Ethan with first call, and he is the one who is the main person that's gonna.
Ethan 1 or Ethan 2?
Well, it depends on whose house you guys. Well, my house, he'd be Ethan 2. If I go to his house, I'll probably be Ethan 2. But
He's IT Ethan.
IT Ethan, that's right.
All right, that's good. Anything else?
Now I'm gonna move on to virus updates. I'll try to be brief, but it is some exciting and significant news. So we had a lot of meetings, and you should just know that there's a lot of freaking meetings. Two, the OE now has full access for entering new F-style water rights and issuing those water right reports. So that means everybody in the organization can log on to the database, and we can enter new applications that come into our office from scratch into the database. That is a significant improvement. And similar, the reports, I call them a report. It's a term of art. It really means that issuance document. Those are getting produced and they look like something with FRWMB, Office of the Water Engineer name, or Office of the Engineer name banner at the top of it, and issued by our office based on the compact and ordinance terms. Pretty significant improvement and accomplishment, really. We're still working through some issues, but that's a huge activity to report that is now live, and we owe a lot of appreciation to James and Kathy and the folks from the state. Have done a great job, and we're working through it. That said, We also are starting to get the assignment of jurisdiction to each and every water right within the exterior boundaries that tracks the project that we've discussed before. I'm not gonna go over it again unless you tell me to, but the reality is that all those deep into the interior water rights are gonna get assigned to this office jurisdictionally in fairly short order, right? We have worked out some of the bugs with the query system. It no longer prints out information about pending water rights. You'll remember the pending water rights was a problem because they were coming up as if our office had done something and we really are just, we haven't absorbed those records yet. And so instead there is a statement that pops up to contact us so that we can help to better explain what's going on. Pending water rights are the ones that were received by the Montana DNRC on behalf of the board because the board was not yet formed during that 180-day period after the effective date of the compact. Furthermore, the database production folks are starting to put effort into splits, severs, and ownership updates. We have identified it is a priority to have all the water rights that we issue get into the ownership update arrangement with the state of Montana so that from somebody's application date to now, we don't lose track of those ownerships that may occur from sales or property transfers. That is my update for the virus. I hope that you enjoyed that. Do you have any virus questions for
There's
us?
a split server, sever and ownership updates. Let's remind us.
Mr. Chairman, board members, so we have talked back and forth about who is going to ultimately handle the splits and severs. Split is when you have a water right, such as a 10-acre water right, that parcel that contains that 10 acres of water right gets subdivided, okay? And then sold to two different people. Now you have a single water right, and those two owners would normally just get that water right, and they just both have their names on it. But sometimes they want to actually divide that interest. It's also called a divided interest. And so they would need to file a form. Now, state of Montana considers the split of a divided interest like that to be part of the ownership update umbrella. And we've had a little bit of back and forth and in discussion here in front of this board about what should or shouldn't be handled on this split and sever divided interest. And sever is when you remove the water right from the property entirely. As of yet, we don't have any resolution, and you haven't indicated to me that we need to really take some kind of a hard run at additionally modifying the arrangement on how the splits and severs would occur. So my present approach is to just acquiesce to the state's desire to keep that under their umbrella of ownership updates.
Any questions on that? I think we talked about that. I think we did talk about different scenario there, but I don't know if there's an option for us to do it any different.
The option will involve some pretty direct discussions that are probably above my pay grade. So that's where, I can't resolve this particular issue. It's not like me and DNRC we're not going to come to any agreement other than they feel like they're compelled to handle this because of the language in the compact. And so it would really need to probably be a discussion that happens amongst board members and parties.
And we need to review this in more detail later. Get this thing up and running and just, I think it's worth I think it's worth having some additional discussion on, but we should probably. Would a brief white paper on this help you guys? Might help me, just thinking like a one-page briefing on what the issue is here. And what our options are.
I can achieve that, Mr. Chairman, board members.
Back on the jurisdictional assignments, I think, so the border issues, we're gonna have, you're talking about the interior ones, fine, the border ones, we've got a solution for that, or not yet?
There is an active process for trying to resolve that, and at this point, we're still working out some of those details. And what our involvement's gonna be. If it happens really fast, I might not care so much.
So on those pending designation ones, are they just removing that label or how are they?
So one of the things that we had to develop in the wireless, the database, was this toggle switch for who's got jurisdiction over each water right. And so a whole new thing. Yeah, no water rights ever had any toggles of jurisdiction. I mean, there was some things like statements of claim have the water court, control over them. And so certain water right types, however, this is a unique arrangement in that all the water right types within the exterior boundaries, excluding the water court's adjudication of the elements of the water right, but in terms of the administration, enforcement, so forth, all of that is with you and your office. So it's a unique scenario that required a new toggle. And obviously, everybody landed on the same page about which one's got the toggle, which one doesn't is important. So we're keeping track of it. So far, I've seen problems. You look like you have another question there, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Well, just sort of you, those had pending label on them, do you just toggle that off now?
So the, Mr. Chairman, excuse me, Mr. Vice Chairman, the pending and the suspended ones are all in that same jurisdiction. So they're all gonna get toggled. But what we need to do is we need to get those pending ones in and review them and get that. And then when we look at a pending one, it's gonna either end up getting issued, modified and issued, or terminated, rejected as a registration. And so we will not move anything forward that would be pending other than a new appropriation permit, which we would, that has a pending designation that's a little different than these registration certificates. And you're familiar with that, I think.
Yeah.
Suspended is a unique category of all those ones that were filed with the Montana DNRC since the Ciotti cases in the mid-90s up to, sorry if I'm telling you guys stuff you already heard a bunch of times, but I'm just trying to, but we do have jurisdiction over all of those suspended rights, all of those pending rights. Those are ones that are going to get toggled for us to go in and address them. And that's part of that compact requirement for this office to receive all these state-based registrations and process them according to the terms of the compact. And there's a lot. I'll just remind you guys, it's like a little under 3,000 total.
So more of a generic questions, the ones that we have processed in this office to date that are just sitting in the file cabinet, those are going to be uploaded into the system now that we have access into them.
Yep, and James has been working with the state of Montana to get an arrangement because since we've done a lot of things before the database was ready, one of the struggles for us is to keep track of each pile of mostly done or partially done, water right applications that we either received directly or, handled as a registration. And to keep all of that record keeping consistent and keep the policies consistent and make sure that they find their destination in the water rights database is a significant challenge for this office. Well, so far, so good.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Well, it sort of reminds me of the question though, like with these state registrations and then upcoming travel registrations, we're gonna get maybe another several thousand. We talked about exploring the idea of getting some contracting for some help because of our shortage of staff right now.
Yeah, I got excited about doing that, and then I instead have kind of dealt more with this emergency rehire arrangement and some contracts and things. So I'm in a slightly different spot than when we first talked about that. Doesn't mean that I don't still, and the other thing is, it's part of what Roger's wanting me to do is look at that budget, but we're gonna have some constraints on, maybe we'll have to borrow some money, I don't know, but, okay. Anybody else got questions on those items? No. Okay. Mr. Chairman, board members, if you'll allow, we can move into this item 6.3 I had on here, the discussion of staffing contracts. Now, there are 4 staffing contracts. You've got those contracts in your cart. One of them is easy. The first one is it's easy and sad at the same time. We need to extend Kathleen Schubert's contract by existing terms for 2 months. I wish I could get Ms. Schubert on for longer. She's made compelling reason. She's on the call right now, but she will have a full month of January for us and then start to phase out during February, but I do want to extend the contract for the full extent of that. And Kathy's been extremely essential to this organization, and we would not have gotten to where we're at right now, frankly, without her assistance when she was working for the NRC and her assistance. She's working directly for us at the board.
And that'll end because
she's moving on to retirement and not working anywhere. I think if she was gonna work somewhere, we could probably try to keep her on, but she's like, nope, nowhere is where she wants to work. It's hard for me to argue with that.
I'm retired and I think twice about doing something.
Well, we'll let her apply for a board position if she'd like to.
So, Kathy Schubert, so what do you need from us on just?
Oh, so really, I'm telling you that what I want to have is some discussion about these contracts. At the end of it, I either want you to concur with the approach, or I want you to tell me, no, Mr. Engineer, I do not agree that you should be doing these contracts. Or
do we need board action on any of these? You're just looking for concurrence?
I'm going to check in with our legal over there. And,
well, let's check now.
I think she's
Just board consensus is fine.
Okay. And do you want to give consensus one by one or just all at once?
One by one.
One by one. All right. We're looking at Kathy Schubert.
So again, this would be a 2-month extension of the existing terms. And I encourage you guys to just let this one slip right through.
Do I see head nods?
Yeah.
Head turns, all right. So Kathy's on, good. Thanks, Kathy.
All right, now, in exciting news, you heard her name earlier mentioned. And now you're hearing her name mentioned again. We've got Anna Butterfield, who is interested in coming back to work for us on a contract basis. Now, what Anna was looking for, is pretty similar terms to what she had before. She's willing to provide us with 10 to 20 hours a week, primarily remote. She said she could drive up here periodically if her schedule allows, but that she would like to have mileage for that. And so, we have a contract that reflects that kind of an approach for up to 800 hours with not to exceed, $24,800 for these services. And this has been tested in the past and was super helpful for this office. I do in fact encourage you to.
Is she still in law school?
She is still in law school.
She is, okay.
And we had an official separation because she went to go clerk for the water court and needed to have a more formal break in service. And so to let you know, this would be, this is like picking up from scratch because I had, done that formal break in service. We wouldn't normally need to always do that if somebody just lets their contract lapse and we would pick them up again, but in that case, that's why there was that formal break in service.
The question, probably not a good time to ask it, are all of these contracts factored into the current budget we just talked about?
No, they're not. We would need to put them in directly as items to fund. I think Schubert's might be in there. I did see a line item for Anna, but I don't know if that was on her most recent projection. I think that was.
So once we do this, then they would need to get added to the budget, okay.
Yeah, and that's why we're having the discussion, because I need to have some people handle some things that I don't have options for, and so it's perhaps not what we all thought was going to be the first approach to staffing, some of these staffing solutions. I need to have some folks who can get around our office.
But you have at least tentatively looked at the numbers and determined that they're going to fit within the budget?
Yeah, we'll make it, I can make it work.
I get that, but that wasn't my question.
Okay.
Well, we haven't.
Not as diligently as I need to.
We haven't plugged them into a draft budget yet to see how that looks.
Absolutely not. The draft budget numbers were not, born until late Friday of last week. And so I'm just trying to give you a little context of why
do you have a total number for these yet?
Yeah, this is, if you were to go for all these, it's a little over, it's $65,000.
Okay. That's helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right, Anna Butterfield, head nods.
Yes.
Anna's online too, I see, if she has any.
Yeah.
Allow her to talk.
She does still need to say yes, by the way, like just, I want to be clear, these are blank contracts.
Right.
So, I needed to get
So
approval.
she hasn't seen these.
She's not seen this. No, I can't go out and offer contracts without making sure we're all on the same page. Okay.
Is live here. We can hear you
Hi.
now.
Anna.
I did have a chance to peruse the contract beforehand. But if you guys have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say. Ethan covered it.
Well, you're starting to sound like a lawyer.
Thanks.
How, you just have one more year left, or where are you at?
I graduate on May 17th.
Good.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any questions, anybody? Okay, no, thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
All right.
So we should
So we're head nod on Anna, yes. Everybody's nodding their heads in the right direction.
Mr. Chairman, board members, next contract up for discussion is, James Frakes. We're looking to see if we can pick him up for, 10 to 15 hours a week, not to exceed 800 hours. This particular package is, about 32,000 if we were gonna utilize them for all of the opportunities, listed. That's the high, what I consider to be the high end. James set his rate, so if you want to argue with him, this is your opportunity to.
I know that when James first announced, his departure schedule, we talked by phone and I had even at that point broached the idea of possibly contracting for well, at least while he's hanging around, and I understand he'll be hanging around for a little while, maybe till spring.
Yep.
So that's helpful, so.
Here or Denver?
I'll be here till like March,
Oh, okay.
working on my basement.
And to be clear, this does contemplate a drive up with paid mileage. And I would expect that between now and March, we would use him for training and other other catch-alls in person. He's aware that I'm gonna try to do that, so.
Something you're interested in?
Yeah, I just need time to be able to do some stuff before I leave, so, this sort of is a nice transition, to allow me to have a bunch of time for what I need to do and still not leave you guys high and dry.
Great.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Just emphatic, not.
Very good. All right, thank you. All right,
Mr. Chairman, board members, the next item contract up would be for current intern who has had a lapse in intern funding. This contract contemplates 12 weeks of 32 to 40 hours a week, $20 an hour, 384 hours, 7,680 at its maximum amount. This would be in person, no mileage. We work somewhere like right there.
questions? Questions, head nods. Yes, okay. Yeah.
The chair and board members, I'd like to move on to next item. There's a personnel action. I'm pleased to let you know that Water Resource Specialist Sydney Palmer has achieved what we'd set forth in her hiring contract. She has got enough of her graduate work accomplished, has been assigned a designee position for this office, and has gotten all the way through her probationary period so that she's firmed up her title as Water Resource Specialist 2, which comes with a $2 an hour increase that was originally negotiated with the contract. This would go into effect at the start of the next pay period. And this is not something I'm asking you to do anything about. It's just, yay!
Hey, super.
Good job.
Thank you, Sydney. Yeah, goodness, good job. Good job, and thank you for all your help.
Mr. Chairman, board members, next I'd like to offer you some recruitment updates. Today is the close for applications to be received and gain priority status. We have flown 2 separate positions, a hydrologist position and a water resources specialist position. We have received 7 applications. Out of that, it's a split in half with one person who has applied for both. Okay, So there are definitely a couple of standouts, so I'm enthusiastic about the recruitment results so far. Who knows what's rolled in while I've been sitting here talking to you, because they do have until, I believe it's 5 o'clock.
One has.
One has,
One more. Cool.
eight,
Eight.
okay?
Good.
So,
Good. That's good. That's good.
So what's your review process gonna be?
tomorrow, I'm gonna figure all that out, and we're gonna assign a hiring team. We're gonna start trying to contact people and schedule interviews. We're gonna try to navigate the holidays. Oh my gosh, it's kind of a lot. So I am, but on top of all the rest of things. And why were you asking, Mr. Vice Chair? Are you interested in being on a hiring team?
Not particularly.
Okay, Ms. Smees, are you interested in returning as a champion board member on the hiring team committees? But I would have probably let you off the hook and made James and Sydney do it, so we'd have 3, but he's like 9 days, like, I don't see us all getting through.
Anybody else can work, interested in being on those?
Won't be here.
So.
That's
That's right, you won't be here.
Yeah, I could probably help. I'll be unavailable, the end of the year, 30th, 31st.
Maybe just coordinate, you can just coordinate with those two.
If you got a geologist, I'll sit in on that, but.
It's gonna be all the hydrologists, you know, because it's,
Just notify all 3.
I
and then
don't
you
know
can
fire, but
see who. I would recommend though, that if you're gonna sit on one, you probably need to sit on all.
like, there's gonna be 2 bundles, right? If you're gonna be in one of the bundles, you gotta be in everybody who's applied for
Be my
the.
recommendation, because you don't want.
And I am gonna be looking, I don't wanna do a whole bunch of like crazy scheduling to get everybody's schedule. I mean, please understand, it's not, I'm not trying to be difficult, but I do need to, if you're gonna fight, you gotta make yourself available.
So what are the 2 positions again?
Hydrologist and water resource specialist.
And have you been on those? Do you need to? Do you want to?
No, I think the only thing that I would prefer to review would be the contracts or offers, anything like that, just to make sure they're all buttoned up.
Yeah, so Ethan, for me, if I am gonna be on that, the 30th and 31st, I wouldn't be available. Probably that whole week,
Probably.
New Year's week.
Applicants won't either.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna schedule it on the, I'm gonna take off some time too,
Yeah,
so
good.
don't worry, that coincides with time I will not like to be here either.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll coordinate with you. I'm gonna start that tomorrow. I need to really crack into this, get an idea of what all I got to get managed, okay?
It's exciting news though.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think our outreach array was, I think is the best. I think we're getting it figured out how to outreach for these jobs. You know, I don't want to overstate the success too much right now, but it does look like this particular arrangement. We found people that I know, we found it in the papers. Some that had found it from the education lists. We, you know, it seemed like a pretty good setup. So anyway,
It's investor sponsored, guys.
I think so. I think so. And
Right.
is that it? Yep, that is, that's everything from office of the engineer.
Item
Okay.
membership, we're covered. All right. Thank you. So board members, it is 4:30. And once again. We do have an executive session we want to do. We can go. Into that, which will put off our personnel policies again. At some point, we're gonna need to prioritize our personnel policies. So that we can get these things done. But that's where we're at. So what would you like to do?
Go ahead. I'd just say go into the executive session.
I was just gonna share, I have a hard stop today at 5.
Okay,
I'm double booked for later this evening,
okay,
but there's a quorum, so.
okay. Well,
I'm good. Yeah,
before,
executive session.
want to jump into that? Okay,
We should look at next meeting date before we do just.
okay.
I do have a comment on the personnel policies. Haley's had these up for quite a bit. And, I've read through them quite a bit and it all looks pretty good, really. So, hopefully maybe the next, meeting we can get through it.
You can prioritize it, yeah.
You have a time when you need it done, like as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, what I've been working on and I shared with the board members
Mhm.
is just reorganizing the policies into different policy sets, so it makes sense. Right, because there's a whole bunch of scattered policies within the document that we've all been working off of. So I've been just reorganizing. It's not changing anything that's in there. So if you have a chance to go through the actual substance of it, please do. And let me know, because right now I'm just literally cutting and pasting different policy sets to put into a more cohesive document.
So that was that big thing that got sent out that was 50 pages or something.
It's also available on the share file too.
Of which all of the dinosaurs have readily access.
Yes, I just wanted to, on the personnel policies, I think I was the only one who expressed a concern on section 10.6, overnight use of office, which was not based on any concern of Ethan using the office or anyone else. I just wanted to make sure that that use was in the contract, and it is. And, just to give some background, just real quick. In a former life, I worked in emergency management. We had an issue where, a gentleman had stayed overnight in a commercial space that was not agreed upon in the lease to do so, and he died. We had a fire response in that building, so if you've seen that coming up, that is why. It created a full set of issues, as you can imagine, but Haley, you took care of that concern for me weeks and weeks ago, so we can take that one off the list. So,
I think it would be worth still discussing it, since I don't know if the other board members have actually looked at your comments that are in the document and then my response to your comment in the
Okay,
document.
gotcha.
So
okay,
if anybody wants to be informed of George's legitimate legal concerns on that, then there is a response in that document to that point.
And frankly, you need to either head nod or, or say no, like you guys you do need to give us direction on where we're at with that. Because we will need to accommodate that. I don't want to be apologetic about doing it or, inadvertently overstep the board's wishes. If somebody comes up here and does a late field season, or there's crappy weather or something like that, we just need to have some certainty so that this can just go forward without, we all can be just on the same page, and that's really what we need to have happen. We don't need to have somebody like walk around on pins and needles about whether something is tough, So,
Question about the next meeting.
You're going for a month.
When are you back?
Day before Christmas.
Want to be on Christmas?
Sure.
Party. I can do Santa Claus. Oh,
You'll wear a beard.
Given the holidays, it's. Oh. So.
I'm a good,
Wednesday's out for me, so
yeah.
I would be not until. I don't know. I mean, out of all these weeks. Next week could be the next option.
Mr. Chairman, board members, if you are gonna do a next week, it needs to be limited to the personnel policies or something I have canned. I don't wanna like generate a whole new slew of document, please just,
That wouldn't be a bad idea anyway, I mean.
Okay.
And I would have to do Monday or Tuesday. The other days I'm on boat. Or a week from today might be,
I'm available for whatever we agree on.
if you want to do another one in December. Those available to use outdoor job. Doable.
I'm available the second week of January. Actually, the end of the first week and the beginning of the second week of January.
Okay. So still looking at 17th.
I can do 17.
17th, you guys want to do the 17th
Of December.
of December?
I'm just checking,
Next.
I'm not getting.
Is that a
double
Wednesday?
dipped
okay, just so what everybody understand,
It's
that's
Tuesday.
1 week from today. Okay,
Well, that would give us one more day with James then. Sure.
Let's go.
I have a conflict
17th?
with Tuesday. It's supposed to be-
17th,
Yeah, I could do the 18th or 19th.
yeah, for me, if you guys want to do one of those days, I'm off. 18th, 19th, 20th, I'm off. So that puts us to the 16th,
I could do the 16th.
if you guys want to do that. So George,
I'm good.
16th, yes,
Yeah.
we're gonna rope you in somehow. Where are you at? You must have web service there or something.
Well, we'll see.
Let's go to Mexico with
Yeah.
George,
Yeah, the 16th.
Sure, whatever. Well, be sure you guys wanna do that, you wanna do it. You good?
Yeah, 16th is fine.
Okay, Shane?
I think so.
All right, well, let's do something on the 16th, afternoon of the 16th, and focus on maybe these personnel policies, if there's any other canned things that you have, we can add that, but certainly, even if you just get that done, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Sound fair? Is that far enough out to get a agenda?
we're. James, Sydney, are you guys, floating around for remote work on the 13th this Friday? To get this stuff posted?
Give me that.
Okay, cause I'm pretty slammed on, Thursday, most likely. So,
We'll get it.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, all right. Good deal, all right, we're good to go, we're gonna have that happen.
All right, 1 o'clock? And 1 to 5, and if we quit early, we quit early. All right.
We'll have to move the one, folks, to earlier in the day. Okay,
Wrote it down on the list.
thank you, appreciate it.
Did you need to change something there?
I had another appointment, but we'll move.
All right, 16th, 1 o'clock, and we'll focus on personnel policy, if we've got something else, you know. I don't know if we can do that. You can do these personnel policies, then. All right, given that, we probably need to jump to. Any final comments on our work so far? No public here, anybody online?
Going online.
Needs to comment, okay, so motion to adjourn in the regular session.
So much.
Roger,
Second.
Ken, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right. So we will actually do it here.